All right, and welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, not children of all ages, maybe 21 plus or close to 20, learning about the product, I guess.
How about beer of many types?
Yes.
There
And really,
we go.
it's a history lesson is really what it is. So it's we're not encouraging, we're encouraging people to drink beer. Never mind. Okay, so everybody 21 plus, and then everybody else that just clicks the yes button whenever they go to websites that ask that question. Welcome in once again to the Two Guys and Beer podcast. Andy Beckstrom, Sean Field, back again, once again.
Back at it again. Beer in moderation. We encourage people to drink in moderation.
Yes. Experiment with the various types, but in moderation always.
Right. That's the disclaimer.
Yes.
Moderation.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I will say before we get too deep into the beer, this episode, timing wise, like it'll end up coming out, well after it's done or whatever. But one thing I am not consuming in moderation currently is the Olympics. I don't know about you. Maybe we'll talk about that later, but it's just been constant Olympics for me. Like I'm at work and I got it on one screen and I'm doing other stuff on another screen and I'm trying to go back and forth and all right, I have to mute that because I have to pay attention to this, but I'm still watching that. So kind of back and forth. And
I've consumed a very minimal Olympics this time. This is probably one of the first I've consumed very little. So.
I just can't. I can never get enough Olympics.
Sure.
And I don't like. It's not even like the running. Like the running doesn't really do anything for me. I watch some of it or whatever, but like that's not the thing. Swimming's kind of fun, but it's just like all of the stuff that you just generally don't see. You know what I mean? Like
3-on-3 basketball.
No. 3x3.
Oh, that's right.
At least that's what they keep calling it. I'm like, like on purpose? So
I did see yesterday, was it this morning or yesterday morning, the kayaking.
Oh,
they did like the 50-foot drop on the kayak and it splashed down.
They just have them in this thing and they tip them down. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm interested when the break dancing starts. I guess that's going to be coming up here pretty soon too. So by this time this comes out, like you'll already know the answers or whatever. But yeah, that's I don't know. It's going to be interesting. A couple of things or whatever. I watched some skateboarding.
Yeah, I haven't watched that.
The big thing is have you seen the pictures or the memes? I'm sure about is it Hungarian shooter?
So I was going to talk about that. Yeah.
We'll talk about
into my brain. Yeah, he's from Turkey. So,
Turkey.
Looks like a hitman.
Turkish. There we go. We'll talk about that a little bit later. So lots of stuff to cover here on the old podcast today. I guess is that's what we'll go with. So
Olympics.
We'll do a bit of that. We'll do a little bit of that. We'll talk a little bit of beer. We'll talk a little bit of barbecue, maybe even just kind of touch on it a little bit. Want to give a little shout out, out there, get some information out. But nonetheless, let's get into the beer portion.
Yeah, we'll drink a little beer.
Absolutely. I believe episode 29, I think is what this is. If I remember correctly, I'd have to double check, but
I don't remember.
I'm pretty sure that this is at number 29. So
we're getting pretty high up there for me to remember this stuff.
Exactly.
I don't have enough fingers and toes.
I've run out of toes to be able to count, and so it's getting kind of dicey at this point in time. It is. So I have to just write it on my hand or something. Every time
that
I go
works.
on, or maybe research before I show up.
That might work too, but we're not good at that anyways.
Yeah.
That sounds like too much work. This is all about having fun and just drinking beers. So.
Exactly. Yeah, but if you go to the link right over here, okay, I'm just
subscribe, comment, donate.
Yep, exactly. Yeah,
donate some beer.
All of the different things. If you are watching on YouTube, definitely like, share, subscribe, all the things. Hit that like button. You'll be able to get a chance to see all of the stuff that we've done up to this point. 28 different episodes. This will be number 29, and we got all sorts of stuff coming up. We have probably the next, 3, 4, 5 beers, kind of like we have a handful of them that are already kind of not in production, but in preparation. We're getting ready for it. We have an idea of what it's going to be, and that's going to lead us into kind of the start of Two Guys and Beer road trip.
It will.
I mean, not really this road trip and more flying. The grand adventure that, of going to Oktoberfest. The Oktoberfest. So watch out for some of that stuff when you get closer to October. We'll be doing some live on location from Munich.
Yeah, you'll get some live clips and shots. Andy's going to be wearing lederhosen if you want to tune into that.
Mm-hmm. I might even have a schnitzel in there.
Yeah. That's what your wife says.
Careful. So yeah, that should be a great time. We're gonna spend I'm only spending a week over there, but I think you guys are spending a little bit more time.
Almost, yeah.
There's some other additional family that are going to be spending a couple weeks over there running the Berlin Marathon. That's kind of what it all started, like those silly girls just running, doing that. So I ended up signing up.
He's going to run.
I'll be running in Berlin as well, but instead of 26.2 miles, I'll be running 3. So
it's all about moderation.
Exactly.
Explain that.
We
already.
don't want to, we don't want to get too far out of control. So in moderation, 100%. So, so look forward to some of that stuff. But you got to hit that like button to be able to get, no, it's free to get in there. We just want you to hit the like button because it's kind of cool to look at the numbers sometimes.
Yeah.
So, definitely check that out. And, check out some of our other episodes, for sure. Kind of go through the list and see what's going on. And then if you have any ideas or anything like that, definitely drop us a line. Comment on YouTube, on Facebook, Instagram, X, Buzzsprout.
Wherever.
Yeah,
you can send us text messages on Buzzsprout, too.
Yeah, anywhere you find us. Just go ahead and leave a comment down there if there's one you want to hear about or, one you want us to try or anything like that.
Suggestion, yeah. The last few have been suggestions from other people. We have one coming up from Belgium that's in like a wine bottle that is kind of almost on deck here that we'll be doing pretty soon from a listener. So, yeah, let us know anything you want us to try. We'll try to get it on.
Absolutely. And we also want to give a shout out to, we've had even a handful of breweries reach out. So whether they're listening in or watching, or if it's somebody, one of our viewers, going to them and mentioning it, it's kind of fun. We're trying to coordinate some of that to be able to get them on there as well. So.
Yeah, get some owners on and some things like that. So
some moving and shaking,
coming.
if you will. We got some stuff going on, It's fermenting.
We're fermenting, yeah.
Got to just toss the random words out there. So today, Sierra Nevada Brewing Company is going to be the discussion point, as you can see here on the table of the table of beer. I guess
I like
the display table here.
Soon to be a round table of beer.
Yes, exactly.
Oh.
That's another one of the things we got coming up here in the next handful of weeks. We're going to have a new kind of semi-remodeled studio, I guess, to a certain extent. So we're going to get some of that stuff rolling and, it'll be a little bit of a different look, but same silly, obnoxious guys talking about it and, still solid beer all around. So, but so today's Sierra Nevada. We're going with the Summerfest today. If you go to the Sierra Nevada website, sierranevada.com, a lot of this information is there. They also have a list of all of their different brews. They have all sorts of different things. Probably one of the more popular ones is within their hazy IPA segment, they have a lot of little thing, like the hazy little thing or the, strong little thing, different things like that. That's kind of a whole series of different beers that they have within that segment. And really the hazy little thing is probably one of the more popular ones that you've seen out. Yeah. You'll see it at breweries, or not breweries, but like bars quite a bit, like even here in Minnesota, we'll see it, at half of the places. If they have like 10, 12 taps, likely one of them is going to be the hazy little thing. It's a big old, kind of teal and gold tap handle, I guess, if you will. So,
well, in the Sierra Nevada, it's probably one of the biggest breweries we may have done, maybe outside of Moosehead breweries. I mean, Moosehead's pretty huge up in Canada, but I suppose other than that, our very first episode we've done, I don't know that anybody might be as big as Sierra Nevada for a microbrewery. I mean, they've got breweries on both sides of the country. Essentially, you're kind of, so that's why you kind of would find this more everywhere else than opposed to a lot of what we do.
And we'll get deeper
so far on the show.
We'll get deeper into some of the details of like the history or where they came from. But to your point, as far as size, as of 2016, it was the 7th largest brewing company in the U.S. and the 3rd largest privately owned brewery in the U.S. So
they're right behind Shells. Shells is number 2.
Yep. So they're right up there.
I think I screwed it up. Shells is still privately owned, but what was it before? Was it family owned and operated, or was it privately owned that we talked about? Shells is number 2 and Yuengling was number 1.
I know that Yuengling is the oldest one. So whether it's privately owned or
Shells
whatever it is,
number 2.
But yeah, because Shells is right behind it as far as age. Sierra Nevada it has been around for quite a while, but not quite as old as some of those. Sure. Those will go back to like the 1800s and many generations. Right. But before we get too deep into that, we got to get this episode started right.
Yeah, we don't like warm beer.
Mm-hmm.
Sierra Nevada Summerfest.
Refreshing summer lager. So it's a lager. And we talked a little bit before we went on here, even on the label on the top part there, you can kind of see it on this side too, but kind of around the top. Family owned, operated, and argued over.
I like the argued over.
It is, if you've ever had a family business, you understand what we're talking about. So definitely, something that there's discussions, Let's see, what do we, 5% by volume. What else? Contains malted barley.
Yeah, you can definitely taste the barley, the malt in it for sure.
I'm trying to think if I had an IPA the other day that was super, super malty, like aggressively so. It's still pretty good, but like it almost overdid the hops to it. But that's a different one there. But no, this is pretty good. It's a lager, so it's going to be lighter to begin with, but a summer lager, so very refreshing.
Yeah, I think it's pretty refreshing. It doesn't seem to taste like a lager to me, though. It is light. We've had other light beers on the show that taste refreshing and stuff. But the flavor, to me, doesn't taste like a lager. It tastes more like an IPA, which I like IPAs a lot. Yep. You like IPAs a lot, so that's different for a lager to taste like an IPA. But it is refreshing, but I don't think it's a lager. Obviously it is, but
right.
You wouldn't think that. If you put this on with a blindfold and I poured some in a cup and you drank it, you definitely wouldn't be like, oh, that's a lager.
Yeah. I completely agree. Yeah, it's not that super light, but it is pretty refreshing. It's kind of in that, it kind of almost bridges some of that gap between, like a heavier IPA and like a lighter lager.
Sure.
So it's got some flavor, but it's not like super deep and heavy. Lawnmower scale rate's pretty high on this one, in my opinion. I'd probably have a couple, 3-4 of these while mowing lawn, and then maybe a couple afterwards as well. Pretty nice and refreshing kind of cocktail. So definitely very good.
Yeah, I wouldn't rate it quite as high. I don't think I could drink like this type of flavor multiple times in a row. A couple, I'd say like 2.5 or 3 lawnmowers. I suppose I would have. I could probably slam one after I was sweaty, but then I would probably not want another one after that. Because I like the lighter beer, I guess, if I'm hot and sweaty.
Right.
But I don't think I would want to drink this around a campfire, though, either in the cold.
Yeah,
so
it's pretty low on that scale, But this isn't built for that,
No,
it's more
definitely
for
a summer beer for sure.
Exactly. Yeah, it's more for the lawn mowing to a certain extent. So you might have to come back to me. I might scale that back. Maybe I'm just thinking it's light right now
because it's kind of bitter in a way with the malt in it or the barley. So that's what would make it harder for me to drink while I was mowing the lawn or sweating like crazy or after basketball or a great game of Bram Snapper baseball.
There we go. Some hot snapper action.
Okay, that cannot sound good. My mind is completely went in the gutter when
it's just baseball. See, the Bram Snappers,
Oh, anyways, I'm just going to drink another beer.
So, Sierra Nevada, established in 1979. A little bit of I don't know if discrepancy is the right way to really be able to put it, but on their website they talk about 1980 was when they kind of created his first batch, but essentially it was 1979 is when he kind of started putting things together. Excuse me, drank a little bit too fast.
Here comes the beer. The beer's working already.
Exactly. So he founded it in 79. It's Ken Grossman and Paul Camusi. Grossman, I think, is more I don't know if the faces of the franchise is the way to be able to put that, but mostly that's who they talk about on their website. Made a habit of chasing curiosity, backyard tinkering, things like that. And then led to his ultimate discovery, homebrewing, fascinated by the alchemy of fermentation. So getting into like the chemistry of the bit.
Sure.
Ken opened the homebrew shop in Chico in California, started slowly playing with some different flavors, creating more hop-forward type of flavors. So that's one of the things about like brewing and, things of this nature that, like brewing's been around forever, not forever, but for a long time, hundreds and hundreds of years at this point in time. We talked about, Spaten going way back and, some of the, Yingling being around for, hundreds of years. We just talked about shells. This has only been around since, 1979, 1980. 1980 is when they first actually created their big batch and started distributing. 79 is when they kind of put it together and created the business. But it wasn't real wild on flavors at that point in time. It was still, there was stuff out there, but, it was like the Mountains of Busch and Bud Light and, Miller Lite and, things like that. There was, if you're getting a dark heavy beer, you're just drinking Budweiser, things like that. So there wasn't a whole lot of hop forward type of things that were out there at all. So they ended up being kind of one of the first breweries to really kind of push those boundaries to a certain extent back in the early 80s. Mostly he started just kind of in the backyard, just tinkering. He allegedly bought his first homebrew kit in 1969 when he was actually a teenager, and he had to hide it from his mom. So in 1970, right after that, then he finds his freedom in the Sierra Nevada mountains, which is kind of where the name comes from. So he would go hiking, camping, spend a week to 10 days up there. But that's kind of where some of that stuff kind of came from. That's where that started coming from. When he moved out of his own house and he could actually have his home brewing without trying to hide it from his mom. 72, he was on a road trip, drove through Chico, California, loved it, moved there, opened up the home brewing supply store, and started doing things like that. 76 is when he opened up the store. So this is even before the brewery itself. He actually started just doing that. Started slow, but he built momentum because he started teaching classes to people. So he was actually already, even at this point in time, not even 10 years in, to just tinkering with himself, with his own stuff, teaching other people how to be able to do some home brewing. So
that's interesting. Before he even owned a brewery and was brewing beer for anybody, he was just teaching, and nice.
Yeah, which a lot of people, I don't know, it's kind of it's a weird, I don't know if fascinating is the right way to put it, but it's a weird, different way to be able to go about it. We talked about, people like, they start with the home kit and they kind of build from there, and then they go and work as like a brewer, or they make their own brewery or something like that.
Yeah.
He made a homebrew kit store.
Right.
Instead,
selling everything first. Yeah.
He went retail instead. So a little bit different.
Which back in the 80s, that's kind of unheard of, I mean, that wasn't really a thing. Mm-hmm. So that's quite visionary, I suppose you could say, for trying to open up a homebrew store to sell supplies to brew your own beer, and it really wasn't quite there yet.
Yeah.
And to be successful at that, too, at that time. Now I think you could be super successful at it because microbrewing and craft brewing, it's a big thing now. Mm-hmm. But in the 80s, that's pretty risque.
Yeah, you're definitely stepping out on some thin ice to a certain extent. But I give him credit for going ahead and doing it.
Yeah.
So he, started to kind of progress through there. He drives to the hop source in Yakima, Washington, and starts convincing merchants to sell him hundreds of 1-pound brewer cuts to start doing big orders of like hops and things like that. So that's where that started to kind of, move up a little bit. Oddly enough, at the time, homebrewing wasn't legal. So in 1978, home brewing is legalized, and so he started wrestling with the idea of what's next, which that kind of gets into like, this is a weird thing for me. So in 76, he opens a store selling homebrew supplies that are illegal. Is that kind of like when you go to like a smoke or vape shop and they sell you all of the meth pipes?
Right.
Or things for pot?
Or THC, pot, marijuana. Well, now it's a little different.
Yeah, now it's a little different. But that's
you could still go buy the paraphernalia
I suppose.
But was it home brewing illegal in the United States at that time, or was it illegal in just California at that time?
See, and here it just says that it was legalized. So, I think it's, one of those things where, he's just kind of winging it and seeing what happens, It's kind of interesting, that like it wasn't legal, but now is, whether it is just in California or nationwide, to go out and sell that stuff.
Right.
Like here's all the supplies to not do what you're exactly going to do.
Right. But maybe that was the loophole in the law. You could sell the supplies, but you couldn't actually do it type thing, like owning a three-wheeler. They were never banned or outlawed per se, but the manufacturers agreed not to build them, but you could still own a three-wheeler and repair it and drive it. I wonder if some kind of weird gray loophole into that maybe, where you could have the supplies or sell the supplies, or neon lights on cars.
Yeah.
Different states have different laws. Like in Minnesota here, we can't put neon lights on our cars on the underbody or around the license plate or whatever. But you could go down to your local Walmart, and you can buy the shit right there and put it on your car.
Yep.
Maybe it was some goofy goofy thing like that in California. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, it's California, so it's kind of,
They're pretty goofy.
Don't judge me if you're from California. I'm judging a little bit, but it's fine. So that was 78 when he kind of, was like, all right, you know what? We're going to do this. We're going to make this happen. Not sure how to do it. Not sure how to figure it out, but we're going to go ahead and push forward with it. 79 kind of put together the business, stuff. And then 1980, first trial batch of beer, 5 barrels of stout.
Oh, wow.
Because we're not going to go hop forward. We're going deep in, right to the deep end. It goes to that. Built the brew house from scratch using mostly recycled dairy equipment, testing his handiwork with something rich and heavy. So that's really why he went with the stout, was more so like, I'm not picking my A number 1 type. This is a test batch. And I'm going to run the heavy stuff through it just to see if it like holds up and what it turns out. Like, does it turn out like the way that it's supposed to? So that was November 15th of 1980. He put his first craft beer through a 13-hour process, and when he tasted it at the end, before, you got to let it ferment, and, but when you let it ferment and you let it carbonate, that's what usually what takes time. But the initial brew, once it gets done, you can taste it, and that's what it's going to taste like. I mean, flat, but that's what it's going to taste like.
Yep.
And so, he took a sip, and he's like, nailed it. Let's do it. So then the Pale Ale came after that, and the Pale Ale is one of their bigger sellers, and that's kind of where that kind of kicked off. So that stout was kind of the first thing that he went after, and just, like I said, both feet in, we're getting after it, and we'll see what happens. So he borrowed $50,000 in loans from friends and family, which I think has worked out okay. I'm not sure how that works as far as like, well, just give me back to 50, or if now you're like a percent ownership
Right.
in the thing or something like that. But, it's kind of interesting, what people do to get into stuff, I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, I think we've all been there where you have a business idea and you got to come up with the money somewhere, it's got to be there. And so you're willing to beg, borrow, and plead, and whatever you can do.
That's a lot of it. That's just what has to happen, I was just watching, I like history a lot, so I've been watching this thing on it's called American Dynasty. It goes over like the Carnegies and the Vanderbilts and the Rockefellers and how they started and made the money. And all of them, even though they become the richest people in the world in their day, started by borrowing and begging and pleading for money to start it up. And the most notably, I just watched one on the Fords, Henry Ford. Well, he had to borrow and beg and plead to get $28,000 to start the Ford Motor Company. So, So all the great ones, that's what they do. Everybody
starts from somewhere.
Yep.
Not everybody, starts, completely rich and loaded. So, everybody's got to start somewhere.
Yep.
So, if everybody wants to give us $50,000 to expand the podcast,
we'll start a brewery on top of it.
There we go. So he did that. With that money, he rented a space and started piecing together some equipment. A 3,000 square foot space in a warehouse is what they initially had. He pieced together discarded dairy equipment. So he would go through like scrap yards and old farms and things like that and just try to find what he could. and just made up his own thing. Because now you can go. There's numerous websites. I've been to a lot of them. It's kind of like brewer's porn, if you will. You know what I mean? You can get like, all right, $50,000. You can put together your own little brew house. That is going to be an electronic system with these pumps and all the different stuff. You could spend hundreds of $1,000s on stuff like that to be able to create all of these things. But that didn't exist then.
No,
and not really even the internet.
I mean, the Sears catalog didn't have any brew parts in it.
Yeah, he wasn't. Yeah, he couldn't Google that. That was not a thing. So putting that together through dairy equipment and scrapyard metal to be able to create that initially. Obviously, later as they grew, they were able to get secondhand copper brewing equipment from Germany before they started moving into their larger facility in 1989.
Well, that's cool as hell. That's cool information. I like that information. Dairy equipment and scrapyard metal, welding it together, putting it together like that. That's the American way, right there.
You're just making it happen.
Ingenuity.
Like this is what I want to do, and yes, I could just buy the whole bit. Although at that point, probably I don't even know how you would.
Right.
But it's like, nope, I need it to do this. So here we go. This is what I'm going to do. Yeah.
Ingenuity and creativity.
Mm-hmm.
Fostered by beer.
So November 21st, so this is 6 days later. So clearly not, didn't wait very long. Like when he tasted that stout, he's like, nailed it. Let's do something else. That's when he did the pale ale. Again, as I mentioned, one of the bigger ones that he's ever made. 10 batches it took him though before he felt comfortable with that one. So the other one was 1. This one was at 10 batches. So a little bit different one, a little bit new on the scene. The Cascade hops gave it a little bit of a intense aroma of pine and citrus, and it started to help spark. They were kind of on the, is it bleeding edge or the leading edge? I feel like it's the leading edge, but I really don't know. But like the bleeding edge of the creativity of the craft beer revolution, when hops started becoming more of a thing, smaller breweries, microbreweries, things like that. In my mind, I look at that more closer to like the 2000s, but I'm sure it had to start from somewhere. By the time it reached me in little rural Minnesota, I'm sure it probably was in a lot of other places before that. So. 1980, they created the pale ale and a little bit more hops to it and started kind of pushing that boundary a little bit. 81, they created the fresh hop, was for holidays, which new take on beers for the season, which are often spiced and sweet. But this one is a little bit different because it's more of a hoppy type of spiced one. So might have to try that at some point in time. Be kind of interesting to check that out.
Yeah, it would be, spice to beer. The spice goes with the holidays, though. Every time when holidays come, it's always spice this and spice that and cinnamon spice this and
right.
Candle spice that.
Yeah, exactly.
It's almost like everything turns pumpkin.
Everything's pumpkin spice.
This, pumpkin
I seen somebody posted something on Snapchat like just the other day or whatever. Like, it's my favorite time of year, and they were like taking pictures of pumpkin stuff, and I almost threw my phone out the window. I'm like, are you kidding me right now? I suppose it is August. So now we're back to the Celebration IPA, which gets closer to the winter seasonal. At that time, the company was selling 950 barrels of beer in the first year, which is, I think that's a pretty solid amount
back
for like
in 1980.
You're just starting it up and getting after
good.
it. They doubled that amount by the second year, and they were kind of off to the races. Their first employee that wasn't the two main guys, the owners, was Steve Harrison, put in charge of marketing and sales, and then Steve Dressler was hired in '83 to help be head brewer. So, kind of taking their vision and continuing to create that, like actually kind of oversee, like a bar manager, kind of situation, I guess. So at that point in time, they were up to about 25 to 30 barrels per week. And then he ended up retiring in 2017. So he actually just retired a handful of years ago.
Not
So
too long ago.
Good for him.
Now his kids run it, I'm assuming?
Well, that's the head brewer. So
the head brewer. I thought you were talking about.
The owner, the owner, he's actually still involved.
Got it.
So, so that's kind of an interesting twist as well. Let's see here, 83 malt and hops giant Bigfoot with barley wine type of beer. So he's all over the board. He's trying all of the different stuff. So 10% ABV and a 90 IBU.
Oh, wow.
That's going to be...
That'll put a hair on your nipple or two.
That's going to be a different type of flavor that I kind of want to try. But apparently it became kind of a cult classic. Also in 83, they get the Copper Brew House that we had talked about before from Germany. If you go to their website, again, the sierranevada.com/about-us, on the bottom of the page there's a timeline that kind of goes through that, but there's a bunch of pictures where I'm going with this. So you see like the big giant copper kettles, like just so cool to be able to see that stuff. The price is right, sort of. He can afford to ship it overseas, but there's no money to install it. So once he got it there, they had to just sit on it. So they didn't install it for, a handful of years. So it was probably, I'll have to wait and find out, when they actually started doing that. I think it probably was 87 or 88 before they actually installed it. So they had to sit on it for like 5 years.
All right.
So they were still hitting max capacity in their 3,000 square foot space. This is around 1986, but the demand is still going up, which it's a good thing. That's kind of what you want it to be able to do. The company distributed its beer itself in the 80s, struggling with financial and marketing problems. A 1982 article in the San Francisco Chronicle highlighted the brewery, as well as having beer sold in prominent restaurants, helped establish a little bit of a market for it. So they were able to kind of get a footing there in the early 80s. But then by 1987, like we were talking about, the demand was starting to go up a little bit higher. By 1987, they're distributing to 7 states, and their production is now at 12,000 barrels. So, again, by my math, it went from, what was the start there, 950.
900 barrels,
and now we are 7 years later, and we are up to 12,000 barrels. This is still in the 80s, so
that's a great increase.
Exactly. Yeah. So they in 1988, they move into the 100-barrel brew house, 4 fermenters, and 200 U.S. barrel secondary fermenters. And that's when they started adding different things like that following year, the Sierra Nevada Tap Room and Restaurant. So opening some additional things in with that kind of as they go through the kind of late 80s. That's where they put that new German brew house in play and get that going. So that's when that really started getting after it. 1993, Harvest Ale is the nation's first wet hop beer, where the hops are plucked, delivered, and go right into the brew kettle all in a 24-hour window.
That sounds fresh.
It's a different flavor. You get a little bit more. It creates more of a disaster. If you've ever done any home brewing, I'm guessing some people watching maybe have. A lot of times you'll get it in like pellets or dried.
Right.
But what this is, and this is actually, so the hops that I have growing out here, at one point in time, Brandon, our home brewing friend and genius that we're going to have on an episode here upcoming at some point, he helped me with. I picked all the stuff, put it into a tote, brought it all down there, and we wet hopped it. We just tossed it right into the thing and just sat there in his driveway and created what turned out to be a really nice American IPA. It was really good. But because you're putting it in there, it's like if it takes like 2 pounds, if you've ever grabbed a hop cone, they're super, super light. So it takes a lot of it. It was like almost a full tote to be able to like get in there. So be able to get that kind of mashed down or whatever in the 5-gallon kettle, to be able to get that to brew right, it was a little bit of a work, but a very fresh taste to it though when it came out though. Very, very good. So it was good. It was a lot of fun to be able to do that. Let's see here. 1994, production continues to grow, and Ken continues to make plans to keep up, growing 50% for several years in a row at this point in time. So now we are into the mid to late 90s, just continuing to grow and move forward. Then in 1998, Camusi, one of the original owners, it was Ken Grossman and Paul Camusi. Camusi decided to retire So 1998, he retired and sold his share of the company to Grossman. So Grossman at this point, 100% owner, and as, again, family owned, operated, and argued over.
I love how that's right on the can. That's just a great tagline that you put right on the can. Argued over.
Absolutely.
Typical family business. My wife has a lot of say in that with her family business. Of course, they're always arguing over something, it seems, over there, but that's the way it goes. Everybody wants the best. Everybody's passionate about what they're doing. That's going to happen.
So in 1997, this is just before Camusi decides to retire, Ken Grossman decides he's going all in. He sets up the 200-barrel brew house that is just a stone's throw, just kind of right across from the original 100-barrel German system that he had got. And it's a major expansion, fermentation cellars, complex infrastructure, lots of investment, lots going into this. And Ken kind of figures that this is the last one. If you look at their website, I highly recommend looking at this picture. It's big bay windows with these big copper kettles with the stacks, looking up. Just a really cool looking building that they have set up there. And again, 1997, this is probably going to be our last expansion because really how much bigger is this going to get? Next slide. So at that point in time, things continue growing and they start making decisions. We've talked before about breweries trying to give back, trying to be, I don't know, holistic's not the right phrase, but trying to be in tune with
philanthropy. They just tend to give back to the community a little bit more than your average business. And
they do a lot with a lot of breweries do a lot with recycling. They're the spent grain is going to hog farms or old cans. There's the one that set up a recycling system within the city that didn't exist before, things like that. So 2004 they start kind of leaning in that direction. They install 4 hydrogen fuel cells to drastically offset the energy consumption and work their way towards sustainable brewing. So they start leaning heavy towards the adjustments with that. The big room in 2000 is what it's called, is the big room. Live music, all sorts of different stuff, country, bluegrass, folk, rock, blues, and all sorts of other things. So that's what was going on with that there is with that expansion. But yeah, 2004 they start going a little bit more green, trying to be able to get that. 2007, their first phase of solar panels go up, capitalizing on Chico's blazing sun in California, which actually, I'm going to take 2 seconds here, and Chico, California. It is, it's in California, oddly enough. It is north of Sacramento, so it's actually more upstate. It's a fair amount north of Sacramento. North of San Francisco and everything. So it's almost about, as far as, I don't know if elevation's the right, thing or whatever, but it's about as far north as Reno. Oh, so it's actually quite a ways up, kind of the edge of California there. So nonetheless, still a lot of heat and still a lot of sunshine. So they put out, 10,000 individual panels. Just a small little bit there.
Wow.
2 megawatts of AC electricity, which ends up being about 20% of the needs. So they're still even consuming still that much more with that much that they have there. But
that's pretty good. That's a lot of panels. You said 200 panels. Mm-hmm. I've got solar on my house, so I know a little bit about solar, and I got it just because I'm sick of paying electric bills.
Right.
It's not about going green for me. I'm just sick and tired of paying companies money. And we have 36 panels, and I generate on average in the month here in Minnesota about 1.4 to 1.6 megawatts. And so far all summer, I've been getting a check from about $70, $80 from the electric company every month, sending me a check all summer.
There you go.
So it's kind of interesting that they had 200 panels, man. That's if I had 200 panels, holy
10,000
cow. Or 10,000 panels.
10,000, yeah.
My God, I've got 36.
So that's what amazes me, that they must have just massive energy consumption, which I'm sure they probably do with just heating and everything like that. But to be able to 20% of the brewery needs, that's quite a bit.
That's pretty crazy. Yeah.
So that's 0709. They launched the Torpedo Extra IPA, one of their first year-round IPAs. Then they had a homemade invention called the Torpedo, or the Hop Torpedo, which actually takes dry hopping to a next level, infusing more aroma and bitterness into the actual brew. So I don't know much about that. I'd have to do a little more research on what exactly it is that they do with that. But kind of an interesting thing that even after this, they're still creating things to, like, kind of like they did originally, like let's get some innovation here. Let's make something. Yeah. So, and they're willing to invest in that. Not everything's going to work, but
that's what you need to do to stand out, though, too. Obviously Sierra Nevada's been around for a while now, but compared to now, when there's a brewery on every city and every corner block now, it gets to the point where they're getting kind of the same. Depends on where you go, where you in. Right. Well, you got to do stuff like that to change your flavors, your styles, to keep up, keep ahead of the competition. You have to innovate. Stay out there, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So 2010, demand continuing to rise, and now that big, massive brewery that they built, thinking it was going to be the last expansion, now some 13 years later, is kind of out of room, and they got to start making some tough decisions what they're going to do at that point in time. Around that same time in 2010, they partnered with Abbey of New Clairvaux, which is a Trappist monastery in Northern California, to begin a series of Trappist-style beers. So now they're pairing with the monks to be able to get that. We talked about that before, didn't we? About the fasting.
The fasting with
that
the
they
monks,
would have beers. So that's what they've been doing. So the Abbey, though controversial here, not really controversial, but maybe, the Abbey has not yet been sanctioned by the International Trappist Association. Therefore, the monastery will not be brewing the official Trappist beer.
Oh,
but Sierra Nevada will be. They just paired with them. So about 2011, the brewery is now up to an employee roster of about 450 people.
Oh, wow.
So it is definitely continued to grow and continue to expand. But again, as I mentioned, you get to that 2010, 2011, okay, we're kind of big. I feel like it's continuing to grow. What do we do?
Right.
Build another place? Sure, why not? Let's go to North Carolina.
The other side of the country.
Exactly.
Why not?
So they break ground on a East Coast brewery in Mills River, North Carolina in 2012. So they build a second brewing facility with an attached restaurant. This one is going to be LEED Platinum certified building that opened in 2014. LEED, by the way, Leadership in Energy and Environmental Design is what it is. So it is a LEED certified, which is kind of a big deal. I want to say, is it Target Field? I think is LEED.
Oh yeah, for sustainability.
Where the Twins play, because
they've done a lot of that.
Because they do so much work with like the rainwater, like catching the rainwater for future use of spreading, using the water instead of things like that. So, so they were LEED Platinum certified. So that's kind of a big deal for like a brewery to get to like that level. Opened in 2014 with a forested track adjacent to the Asheville Regional Airport. They reuse the cut down lumber in both the building and for rainwater cisterns that flush the toilets. So they're reusing everything that's
Perfect.
there. So it's quite the accomplishment with that one.
That's probably, not to change the subject too much, but they went from built one in California, now they built one in North Carolina. Well, it's actually kind of smart distribution-wise, because if you're on both coasts, you're in all the major cities of the country, minus Minneapolis, St. Louis, and Texas. That probably cuts your costs down for distribution-wise, and now you're hitting all the major cities up and down both coasts.
Oh yeah,
that's
absolutely.
Well, that's probably the smart way to expand. But I suppose the risk of that too is when you're starting all over on the other side of the country, you're not really close to your home base on the other side of the country, so you're basically starting all up from scratch, brand new on the opposite side of the country, though, too.
Yeah, it's and it makes me wonder, and it doesn't really allude to it here, but like, what brought you to Mills River?
Yeah, I've been to North Carolina like 5 times, and I've never been to Mills River, and I don't know exactly where that's at, but I'll have to check that out and see.
But and maybe all it is, maybe all it is just we want to pick somewhere on the East Coast. Maybe that's what, like you're saying, trying to be able to hit both coasts and be able to do that. But it just seems kind of like you're not going to expand continuing where you're at, where you can kind of have everything right there and control it. You're going to expand to the other side of the country.
Right.
It seems like kind of an aggressive move, but good. It appears to be just south of Asheville. So it is west of Charlotte.
So it's on the western side of the state, yeah.
Yeah, it appears to be...
I've probably ridden my motorcycle through Asheville.
It appears to be kind of tucked in, kind of where North Carolina where it tapers off there before you get to like Tennessee and Georgia, kind of in that corner there.
Sure.
So...
I wonder if that's where I think that's where the Vanderbilt house is. Actually, the largest house in the country. I think that's in Asheville, North Carolina, actually.
Maybe.
So I've been to Asheville.
There you go.
If I'm correct, for some reason I'm thinking the Vanderbilt house is in Asheville, and I've been to Asheville.
There you go. I have not. I've been to not very many places on the East Coast. Closest to, I guess it's the East-ish coast is like Florida.
Sure.
So like Miami and Fort Lauderdale, but yeah, nothing really like upper East Coast though.
The Carolinas
DC.
are great. I love the Carolinas.
Yeah, that's what I've heard.
They're gorgeous.
I have to do that someday.
Great motorcycle riding, great barbecue. It's everything.
You know who else really likes North Carolina? Ken Grossman's son, Brian.
Oh.
Dad, I will run the North Carolina operation.
Perfect. Perfect.
And so in 2015, he takes over that side of the operation. So
smart boy.
So that's where he does there. And then we mentioned that they're LEED Platinum certified. This is 2016 is where they earn it. They built the building or started building it in 2012. But yeah, 2016 is when they actually earn the actual certification. So, so quite in my mind, that's a big deal. That's kind of a crazy deal. Let's see here. What else they got going on? From 2013 to 2022, they also operated the Torpedo Room in Berkeley, their first tasting room outside of Chico. So they did a little bit outside of Chico, California, and outside of North Carolina, just as a little tasting room. Didn't make anything there, just, like, here, come try our stuff. In 2017, always eager to innovate, they install a Tesla Power Pack battery system to better use the energy that they produce. So that's one of the things I guess I was thinking about when you talk about 10,000 solar panels. You're getting all that heat right there during the heat of the day, but the rest of the day when it's not light out, you know what I mean? Like, not that you're losing it, but like it's got to go somewhere. You know what I mean? Like,
you need to store it somewhere.
Yeah,
that's the big thing with solar is you need some place to store it. Mm-hmm. If you don't have any place to store it, it's kind of all for naught.
Exactly.
And
so that's kind of what they're doing here. Is in 2017 they install the Tesla Power Pack. It jumps in when demand is low, and then it kicks in when things bump up and the solar panels aren't really doing much with that. So. Let's see here. 2018, a massive wildfire in Butte County. They worked together with a lot of things there. More than 1,400 craft breweries joined them in they were brewing Resilience Butte County. It's a proud IPA fundraiser with 100% of the sales going to the fire relief. So kind of a cool thing that they did at that point in time in 2018. So. Wildfires, are devastating, especially in parts of California, get into like Idaho, things like that. Like, it's just crazy. But they, did a lot to be able to, put money back into that community with that. So let's see here. The 2018, our beer styles start to diversify, and they decide to join the haze craze, which everybody's all about the hazy IPAs. I don't know what your take is on hazy IPAs. They're not bad. I'm not really the biggest fan of that. My brother-in-law, Al, he wants to get a shirt, bring clear back, or make clear great again. He wants to, get that to bring back clear IPAs instead of hazy IPAs, which I support that. But hazy little thing, which is, I think we mentioned before, probably their top seller now because it's everywhere. You can't hardly go to a bar now and not see it on tap. It is, as I mentioned, number one hazy IPA in the nation.
There you have it. You have it.
Verified. I validated my bullshittery.
You're like a wizard.
Something like that. Let's see here. It's the first in the step of the Little Things series that I had mentioned before.
Sure.
So they kind of go in with that. Let's see here. What else do they got here? They talk a little bit, kind of on some different stuff about some of their influence and kind of where they went with different things. They tried to just, want to stick with what they wanted to do and didn't want to get into super commercialized brewing, for a while there during the 80s, which kind of helped them kind of stand apart, I guess is kind of really what it was. But when they get to their 30th anniversary in 2010, they released a series of collaborative beers with the assistance of those that Grossman thought was an early influence. And he's got a list of about 4 different brewers. So he did some collabs and released those. So kind of a interesting thing with that to be able to, claim with that, and be able to work with that. So let's see here. They in 2010 also they won the U.S. EPA's Green Business of the Year award. So
that's pretty
they're
cool.
Not messing around with that. It's a massive thing that they got going on there. They create that with like the solar array that they have. They have the charging stations. They have the battery packs that they got there. They apparently also use a small scale BioPro biodiesel processor to convert used cooking oil from its own restaurant into biodiesel for the delivery trucks.
Well, that's pretty cool.
Let's do everything.
My wife's company actually did this. So my wife owns a towing company. Her and her family own a towing company in Minneapolis. Well, for a while, they collect cooking oil. Well, now they just sell it back, to companies that make biodiesel. But for a while, they did the same thing. They collect the oil they collected. They boiled it down and purified it and made their own biodiesel for their own trucks for towing. So that's pretty cool that you can do that with cooking oil, to run your trucks. Yeah,
it's a great way to be able to move that forward.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You'll still be able to use that. In 2009, they made an agreement with a local ethanol company to create a high-grade ethanol fuel from its discarded yeast. So they're now reusing that. The spent grain is sold to local cattle ranchers for livestock feed. The spent water is sent to the brewery's own water treatment plant that they have, because why wouldn't you have your water treatment plant, where it's reused mainly as drip irrigation for its fields that it has. 99.5% of the brewery's plant's solid waste is diverted from landfills.
Wow, that's cool.
So they do a ton of work with that. They own 1 mile of railway in Chico for intermodal freight transport, which helps reduce the carbon footprint. It can hold the equivalent of 4 semi-trailers full of grain. So you just rail car that stuff right in there.
That's
Why not?
Cool. Yeah.
Much more efficient than ground transport, and so they continue with that. Sierra Nevada is the largest buyer of organic hops in the United States, and it also farms its own organic hops and barley for the use in its own Chico Estate Harvest Ale release. So they do a lot of their own stuff that they're doing.
I think all that technology is neat behind the green stuff. I'm not like this big go green guy and it's going to save the planet, because I don't believe it will. But I think using things responsibly is good for the planet and good stuff. And all these companies, especially the breweries that do that, I think the technology that goes into that to reuse stuff and the solar and the batteries and the water, and I just think that's cool technology.
Oh, absolutely.
It's a bummer that technology costs more expensive than like fossil fuel technology and stuff, but it's super cool technology and how it works, on that sustainability stuff. It's highly interesting.
So let's move up now to 2020, and then we're going to jump back to 2016 in a second here. But 2020 is when they just more
turn
business.
On the flux capacitor.
Yep, we got to get things rolling here. Let's hear 2020. They venture beyond beer, because everybody's got to go beyond beer. Although this one doesn't, maybe at least yet, doesn't go a seltzer route. They start making kombucha. So they make
okay.
Strange Beast Hard Kombucha. Fermentation Frenzy is tough to tame, and they challenge it. They really like it. So kind of a fun little thing. The last one that they have on their website here, the information here, kind of a fun thing. A keg of Big Little Thing. So the one of the little things, the hazy IPAs. A keg of that flies 438 feet, breaking the Guinness World Record title for the longest distance a 20-kilogram projectile has been thrown by a trebuchet. So those the tumbling things that like throw pumpkins or whatever. They put a keg in that thing and they launched that heifer right across the clear across the county to be able to set a record. So
I wonder if they have videos of that on YouTube.
I'm sure there probably has got to be something.
Our tech guy is
somewhere.
Gonna have to find a video of that and throw it up on edit it in somehow to the episode of a flying keg.
Right. It's gonna be the keg's gonna be flying over the top of my head over here, or your head. I guess I don't know which direction it's flipping.
Right.
So then just to kind of recap, I mentioned we're going to go back to 2016. Let's go back to 2016, more so just that's where the data is coming from. We talked in their first year in 1980 that they were, 950 barrels? Is that what it was? I believe that's where they're at, 950 barrels. So as of 2016, it is the 7th largest brewing company in the United States and the 3rd largest privately owned brewing company in the United States. And it was producing 786,000 barrels.
Holy cow. The coolest thing about all that is the second fact is they're privately owned. I think that's the coolest fact of any brewery that we do that's privately owned. And you get sick of these big Anheuser-Busch's and Miller Lite Coors, they combined and stuff. Here you got the 7th largest brewer in the United States is family owned. Mm-hmm. How cool is that? Independently family. I think that's cool as hell. That's my favorite fact.
So Grossman and his wife, Katie, they have 3 children. They still live in Chino, still own the brewery, still, operate it. Again, family owned, operated, and argued over still at this point. His son, Brian, and daughter, Sierra, will run the company when he retires. So he hasn't even retired yet. But Brian did move to North Carolina to manage that one in Mills River. So he is...
maybe there's less arguing over there in North Carolina, too.
It's altogether possible, but...
Leave everybody back home.
Because Wikipedia likes to throw random facts out there because it's,
your trusted source of information.
Exactly. But so the funny part here is, Brian moved to Mills River, North Carolina to be able to run that one there in 2014. And his wife, Katie, is a non-alcoholic. It says here she's a teetotaler, which is, practice and promotion of total abstinence from consumption of alcohol. So she doesn't drink at all.
Well, that's an interesting combination now, isn't it?
But he is now the head of one of 2 major breweries that is one of the largest ones in the nation.
In the country, right.
Yeah.
Wow.
So kind of a fun little tidbit of information there.
That's interesting, yeah.
So, yeah, that's kind of our information that we got here on Sierra Nevada. So, Sierra Nevada Summerfest, a refreshing summer lager. As I mentioned, the hazy little thing, the little thing series that they have is the hazy little thing, big little thing, cosmic little thing, tropical little thing, juicy little thing, dank little thing, cool little thing.
There sounds like a lot of little things going on there.
It seems like it's kind of a big thing at this point in time. Yeah, so there's all sorts of different things. I'm kind of interested. The cool little thing is a cryo fresh hazy. So I don't know how that works. But
interesting.
I'm willing to try something. But, so that's the story of Sierra Nevada.
Summerfest.
Good beer. Very solid stuff. Originally, our plan with this brewer was we have a friend of ours that was, showed interest in being on the episode with us. Timing wise, we just didn't quite make it work out, but at the same time, we also do want to give a huge shout out to him anyway, because I love the guy and everything that he's doing. Clint Pete's a good friend of ours, a good friend of the program was that's the way we'll put it.
All right.
But they've been doing a barbecue thing, a Pete's Out Barbecue. So PEETZ Pete's Out Barbecue is you can find him on Instagram.
Yeah,
they're
he's on Facebook.
Yeah, he's on TikTok. They're kind of all over the place. They
winning
got
awards. I think he just won a third place trophy this weekend.
So I was just going to say they were out at a event this weekend, and they got a third place award in that one. They've been out doing all sorts of different things. In many different locations. So, I would definitely recommend, kind of look them up on the old Insta, on the gram, if you will.
The gram.
And give them a little bit of love and kind of get an idea of what they're doing there too. So I think that they do a fantastic job with a lot of their stuff. I don't see where it was that they were at with this one, but there's a long, stressful day, but they got reserve grand champions, so second place in that one. So a lot of cool things that they're doing there. So Pete's Out Barbecue, definitely recommend checking that out. And they got some good stuff, and I've been drooling over his stuff on Instagram for quite some time. So definitely something worth checking out.
And what goes better in the summer with Summerfest beer than some good old fashioned barbecue in the summertime?
Absolutely,
it's a great combination.
Absolutely.
And actually, barbecue would probably go fantastic with this beer. Now that we're talking about it, I think this is a great beer to drink while you're eating some barbecue. Like this would be stellar. This would be like 5 lawnmower beers then.
I was going to say, do I have to change my scale now? It's a 0 lawnmower because I'm not even going to get on the lawnmower. Right. I'm just going to drink and eat barbecue. That's okay. That's a good adjustment. We added the campfire scale last time, so maybe we add the barbecue scale.
Barbecue, yeah. We're gonna have so many scales we won't even keep them straight anymore.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's a solid beer, but definitely check out what Clint has with the Pete's Out Barbecue. Definitely recommend that, and we'll have our make sure our tech guy puts the nice link right here. Right. Wait, no, right here.
Somewhere in there.
Mess with him and make him move it around.
Somewhere.
So definitely check that out, and I think he does a great job, and wish him all the best there. But we'll have him on an episode at some point.
Yeah, for sure.
We'll still get him out here and do that. So, that's our story of Sierra Nevada. We talked a little bit of Olympics earlier.
What else goes on in the summer?
Yeah,
Summerfest, the Olympics, every 4 years. So so we brought up that. I wanted to bring it up. You kind of brought it up, that guy. Well, I think he's from Turkey. You think he's from Hungary. So we both might be wrong.
He's probably from Azerbaijan.
Yeah. But did everybody see that guy? He won a silver medal with his hand in his pocket, just his old spectacles on his face, no scopes, no tape on the other eye, no arm braces, no this, no that. He just raised a pistol, pow, pow.
But you look at some of the other people, they got this thing covering their eye, or they have it's like a goggle, all sorts of different things that they got going on.
Scopes on their pistol.
This guy had a look about him that he looked like he was disappointed that he couldn't have a heater hanging off his lip.
He probably should have.
And his hand was in his pocket, likely because he wasn't allowed to have a beer in his hand out there. That's kind of the look that he kind of gave off.
He didn't know what else to do with it at that point.
Exactly. He's like, all right, bam, bam, bam.
Yeah.
Keep shooting, keep knocking stuff down.
Like that, what a great story. I'll have to do a little digging into that guy and how it came to be. It's almost like a John Wick.
Yeah.
He just shows up, wins the silver. All right, I'm out.
Yeah. That's the best part about the Olympics is you get just the randomness of things like that happen. What I mean? We're so used to the big major sports that are so refined and TV ready and stuff like that. And then you get the Olympics every, couple of years where just, random Joe Bag of Donuts shows up and does something ridiculous like that.
And if he didn't do that, we probably wouldn't even be talking about the shooting portion of the Olympics. But
absolutely.
Because he did that.
Yep. It brings attention to it.
Now it's fired away. And what's more interesting than all the shooting sports this year, guess who didn't medal, surprisingly? The United States.
U.S., yeah.
You think the United States should medal every year in shooting because, we own the most guns in the world privately. You think we would know how to shoot, but apparently we don't.
I think I actually was watching some of that the other night, and I made that comment that I'm like, U.S., all the guns. Can't hit anything. That's why we need that many guns. We got to throw all the bullets that direction. It's volume
over accuracy.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy. And what else on the Olympics? The swimming. I watched. The little bit I consumed was the swimming. What was there? Ledecky.
Katie Ledecky.
Ledecky.
Yep.
won by like 10 or 11 seconds. Like I was watching the
dang
screen
near
and it
lapping
was her.
the field.
There was nobody else in the screen. Like, holy cow!
Yeah, and she's getting closer to 30, which is unheard of. To be that elite level. And she also was making comments about like, well, I'm not retiring. LA is coming up in 4 years. Okay.
When you're
I guess if you're winning by that much,
seconds, you're really going to lose that much?
Exactly. Yeah. Instead of her trainings, it could maybe just be a couple beers instead.
Couple Summerfest from
there
Sierra
we go.
Nevada.
Absolutely.
Well, what have you been watching on the Olympics?
A lot of that same stuff. I watched a lot of. I've been trying to watch some of the sand volleyball, and I was watching some men's volleyball earlier today. They're pretty talented,
Brazil
doing pretty well.
Brazil, United States.
Yep.
Is that the one you watched?
Yep. That was a pretty good match. But I don't know. I try to bop around. Every so often I'm just like, all right, what's going to be on? Handball is kind of a little weird to watch, but it's kind of fun. I like watching water polo. I don't know why. That's kind of a fun thing.
I've watched that in the past, not this year, but in the past.
Watched a little bit of badminton. With the little rackets, and
badminton's good.
And let's see what else. Table tennis, which is I can't get my head around like how fast that moves and how to react to that.
Well, and it starts so slow. Yeah. Like when you watch them serve, they're all a little tap, and it's like, and then 2 hits later, they're standing 20 feet behind the table, just
smoking it back and
crazy.
forth.
Like, how does it even happen? Like, I love playing table tennis. I have one in our house. Nobody likes to play with me too much.
I will happily play. I'm terrible at it. You can kick my ass, but
it's a fun sport, if you want to call it a sport, I suppose. But yeah, watching those on there, how they serve it so softly, there's a little tick, and then 5 swings later, they're 20 feet away, just like Forrest Gump,
Yeah.
Like it's just nuts. That's a lot of fun to watch, the table tennis. Did the United States even medal on that? I don't know if they did or not.
I know there was, what was it?
No, they did.
They did because there was discussion of Anthony Edwards about if he was going to score against them at all.
And all of our players were like Asian players. They were United States, but they were Asian. So the meme was like, "Oh, good one, United States.
Yep.
Way to take that medal."
We had to recruit from.
We recruited from Asia, somewhere in Asia. Yeah.
Yeah. We got him a job at Sierra Nevada Brewing. It's fine, dude.
Yeah, so we did win something. I don't remember what we placed in, but
yeah, I don't know. It's crazy to watch some of that stuff, but yeah, it's I don't know. If nothing else, it's even fun kind of seeing just like. The randomness of who's good at what and where. You know what I mean? Like you even look at like track and field. I was talking the other day about like I'm sure that like a Noah Lyles or like the elite level sprinters. Like a Usain Bolt obviously is going to be able to. Running is his job. He's going to make enough money from promotional stuff, advertisements, things like that. That's what he's going to do. Simone Biles likely. Gymnast, that's what she's going to do.
Yep.
If you're a high jumper, do you think, even if you're like an elite level, like, world record holding high jumper, do you think that because that's the only thing that you really do, like they don't do other stuff. I mean, they do high jump for I think for the decathlon, but if you're doing that, you're a decathlete.
Right. You're
but
doing
the people that just do that. Do you think that they have the year round, or they're the ones that work at Home Depot? Because they always have the commercials that Home Depot sponsors, whatever, and let people go to the Olympics or something.
Yeah, they do, and that kind of brings me into something I wanted to bring up. So I work for the world's largest retailer, and one of the people that worked there just missed the Olympics. He was trying to do the 200-meter hurdles, and he just missed out from qualifying. He got to the final, and he was the first one not to qualify in the Olympics. So he was just right there.
Just right on the edge.
But it's got me thinking, from reading in the past and what I've dug up, Olympic athletes really don't make money.
No.
The winners might take home $30,000, but then you got to pay. They pay tax on that stuff, and they come back to the United States, and that's just a travesty. That almost kind of put a bad taste in my mouth this year about the Olympics and why I haven't consumed as much. It's the athletes that make the Olympics happen.
Yeah.
Billions of dollars are made off the Olympics. Where the hell is that money going?
Right.
It sure as hell isn't going into the athlete's pocket where it should go.
Yeah. Meanwhile, they're in the athletes' village sleeping on cardboard beds.
Or in the park. Did you see that guy from Italy was so disgusted with where they were sleeping? He went and slept in the park.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he rolled out a mat, and that's where he slept. Like, what? Like, what is happening here? The money should be going to the athletes more than everybody else.
Right. It needs to be a little higher percentage there.
It does. And another thing that bugs me about the Olympics, too, is why in the hell every city that hosts it, why do they always got to build brand new shit just for the Olympics? And when the Olympics are gone, it falls into disrepair. What a complete waste. We have the facilities worldwide in all these major cities. Use the facilities that already exist. Maybe remodel it a little bit or update it before the Olympics, but you don't need a brand new swimming facility, a brand new this facility, a brand new track and field. Like, that's such a waste and a crock of crap, if you ask me.
And I'm not saying that it needs to be in the U.S. all the time, but that's one of the things I've read, that like there was an article at one point that said that St. Paul should bid for winter or summer because they have all of the facilities within an hour to do everything. They might need to do a little bit of work on the ski jump off on, 494, but, I think that they could probably like throw some snow down on it and it'd be all right. But they're not spending $1 billion on infrastructure and a bunch of other stuff to be able to do that.
To use for 2 weeks.
Exactly. Yeah, they're going to book out all the hotels, but they're going to use the Target Center. They're going to use Target Field. They're going to use, like U.S. Bank Stadium. They'll use the college stuff. Like, all of this stuff is there. You know what I mean? If they want to use like some of the hills in Duluth, I mean, you look at the Olympics now, it's not like not everything's in Paris. No. Most of the stuff's in Paris, but some of the stuff is in, like, what is it? The surfing is in Tahiti.
I thought that was.
I mean, granted, you got to have it somewhere where they have waves. You can't just, like, all right, we're just going to get everybody to like slap the water real hard on the other side of the River Seine. But like something like that, you got to put it somewhere. But to your point, like, why are we not picking somewhere that has some infrastructure? Yes, it's going to bring in a bunch of money to that area, but you're also going to have now all these buildings that are just unused.
And then they cost how much to maintain? And that's why they become unused and fall into disrepair, because you need to pay to maintain that stuff. And if it's not used and you're not maintaining it,
And I know a lot of places in the past have used it as like, okay, the athletes' village is going to be more permanent housing and it will become like low-income housing or things of that nature. You know what I mean? So you're still using it for purposes, but at the same time, you still have these big stadiums that, are now being built for temporary use.
For no reason. And that kind of money, even in the United States, I'm not just talking to other countries, even in Atlanta, the 96 Olympics, they built stuff there that they just use and been abandoned ever since and look like crap. It doesn't make sense to me. The money needs to go back to the athletes. It should be all about the athletes, not about the advertisements and the promotions. It's about athletics, country versus country, competing athletically. That's what I think we need to get back to more of. I mean, look at what they're swimming, what the River Seine. We've got athletes swimming in poop or puke or sewage or something, and they're like a handful of them have gotten ill now, and some of them are puking. Like,
it's fine. The test said it was just barely under the legal limit.
What is happening? Like, I'm fine with swimming in actual rivers. I think we should instead of building it, but you supposedly said you cleaned it up. Like, what's going on?
They spent a ton of money just to clean it up, and then it rained and it put it right back. And like, you didn't plan for a rain. You didn't have a rain plan?
And that wasn't. Why is it happening? Why is that river getting polluted so bad? That's what they need to figure out in France. You want to keep it clean. What is it that's causing?
You're just dumping your sewers directly out into there?
Where's it coming from?
Exactly.
And I would imagine that would cost France enormous amounts of money, but I don't know.
But that gets into, like, maybe don't award them the Olympics to have them swim out there in the first place.
Right.
Or have a different plan. Like if we're running, like people all over different countries for different sports, why do we have to use the river here that's full of poop? We could do the triathlon in another one that has all the things.
Yeah. It's just goofy.
Triathlon's not something you have like a lot of people that are sitting watching except for like the end and the start or some of the transition places.
Right.
But it's not like you're just sitting. It's not like basketball where you can sit and you watch the whole 3 hours.
Yeah.
Like it's such a distance, You're spending a lot of that time just by yourself out there running.
It's goofy. And you brought up basketball. Let's do the 3x3. The United States got their ass kicked.
Oh, my God.
I watched the first 2 matches. Why? Who's even on our team? I didn't even know any of them except for Fredette.
Jimmer.
Woo.
Jimmer.
And he got hurt, which...
Yeah, he got hurt
he was
after
a ball player, but the other 3...
Yeah, I didn't know
Never
who
heard
else.
of them.
Yeah, well, it was the same with the women's one too. Whatever. Haley Van Lith is an elite college player,
Yeah.
but the other 3, 4, I didn't know who they were.
And I
at all,
get
but-
NBA players aren't going to go do that. Like,
Yeah.
I understand that, but college level athletes, like just
Yeah.
people I know, maybe, you know,
Right.
I don't know.
Well, and I think that's probably
And
one of
it's
the things
new.
that
It's new, but
yeah, it's probably one of the things that's probably holding back their, I guess, to a certain extent, notoriety is, just that name recognition.
Right.
You put a guy like Jimmer out there or Haley Van Lith, like you at least, oh, hey, that's somebody like I can attach to that. You know what I mean? Because you know who it is.
but his name recognition came years ago.
Oh my God, yeah, he was
How
like
many
20 years
people-
ago.
And then you got the sand volleyball. You got Budinger
Chase
from
Budinger, yeah.
Wisconsin out
yeah,
there.
former
Yeah.
Timberwolves
Yeah,
player.
Wisconsin Badgerite.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, trying to make some stuff happen, but they lost too. Today, I think.
They did. They lost today.
Yeah,
So we're
it's going to be a different day when you listeners have it, but today it was devastating for me.
yeah, this will come out in a little bit, but
Yeah.
yeah, it's, I don't know, Olympics.
Yeah. Well, what else you got? Anything else on your mind? Otherwise,
Oh, I don't know. One quick thing I kind of thought was funny. I was bring it up. Brazil. I read it on the New York Times, but I also read it on CNN and stuff. Super trusted forms of information. But apparently, these sharp-tipped sharks down in Rio
Rio de Janeiro.
I can't talk.
Yeah,
I just
that
can't talk. Just don't listen to me. Yeah, down there off of the coast of Brazil.
Okay.
So some scientists caught like 12 or 13 of them, and they do tissue samples and this and that, and they're full of cocaine.
I think I heard that.
So now we have sharks that are on cocaine.
Yeah, it's like cocaine bear, but cocaine sharks instead.
So I was reading the article, and they were talking about the wash off of cocaine into the streams and stuff, and then or is it coming from cocaine that gets thrown overboard and sharks are eating it? Like, that's interesting. That's kind of scary. We got sharks on cocaine. It kind of starts to make me think of Sharknado 5.
Yeah, exactly.
Or what's the other one?
Maybe that's going to be that'll be the
Meg.
next one. It's going to be Sharknado 9. Sharks on cocaine.
The cocaine.
They're coming. They're really coming to get you now.
Like how funny is that? They had that much cocaine in their system. They said, the article said, I believe in the New York Times, it was 100 times more than like the average that would normally be found. Like what the fuck? What are these sharks are doing on cocaine? I wonder if that should be a new Shark Week episode.
There you go.
Sharks on cocaine.
We'll put The Rock on that one.
Yeah.
And we'll get him going. Yeah.
Study their behavior while they're on cocaine.
Exactly. Yeah. Get back to us in a week.
Are they more promiscuous?
Right?
Are they
Maybe
more
that's
docile?
There's more.
I don't know.
All of a sudden, there's like 100 more sharks. Like, I don't know what happened. They're all on cocaine.
But yeah, I just thought that was funny as hell. Sharks on cocaine.
Sharks on cocaine.
In Brazil. So if you're in Brazil, stay out of the water.
There we go. Sierra Nevada and sharks on cocaine.
There we go. That's what we do on the Two Guys and Beer podcast.
There we go. Well, I definitely recommend going out and getting yourself some Sierra Nevada of any kind. But the Summerfest is a solid option. A lot of fun, having that today, and think it'd be good for a nice hot day at some point in time.
Some barbecue.
100%. Check out Pete's Out Barbecue. Like, share, subscribe. To him and to any of the stuff for ours on any of our different platforms. Give us any feedback or any ideas of stuff you want us to be able to do, and we'll I'm sure talk to you next time.
Perfect.
Cheers.